So first, I want to first and foremost, I want to thank Christy Moan for thinking that I should stand here. The board, the electors for this induction. I also want to thank Dave Dinsmore and Marcel Van Gardenen for driving me around on a lot of the courses. And also, I want to make sure that I thank Ride with GPS, because I'm pretty sure I'd still be on some gravel road somewhere in this country since I get lost in a paper bag. So, yeah. So I'm glad that's in there. I'm honored and feel privileged to be recognized for my work from over the years to influence the gravel space. I'm a fan of the sport, its athletes. Everyone who rides a bike on gravel is a gravel cyclist. Everyone's an athlete. So remember that. When you're like, God, this sucks. I'm an athlete. Remember that. Everyone who rides a bike, I already said that. You know, I take photos. I mean, come on, give me a break. I'm surprised I even got this far in writing this. My goals through my imagery is to create a sense of space and purpose and have everyone pedaling gravel feel a connection to those vibes. It's my whole purpose for being out here is the human narrative, and that's what I'm all about. One of the things that my first exposure to storytelling came through imagery as a young child when my mom documented all of our lives on Super 8, and we watched it, you know, eating popcorn and stuff. It was great. But in fact, pretty sure we would have been influencers if that was such a thing back then. No doubt. 100%. So I'd be doing something totally different. But I'd rather be here, so it's all good. I decided, or I didn't decide actually, to go into to take photography serious until 2014, when I had a job gap and luxury of time, so I got fired. But I had literally just contracts didn't renew, and I found myself with luxury of time and thought, you know, let's maybe give this a go. And I realized how ambitious, but mostly naive, at the amount of time I had given myself. I gave myself 2 months to make this work. And I thought, if I can make this work in 2 months, maybe it's meant to be. So, you know, here I am, 10 years later. So it's pretty interesting, you know, like when we set goals and think about process goals and those kind of things, you know. So it's not always the end goal. That's really important. But things took a turn. And also, I actually thought I was going to focus my efforts on pet photography. Of course, I have a dog, which all of you guys know who I have. So I thought, you know, that'd be a kind of a fun thing to do, pet photography. So that was what I was going to do. I don't know exactly why, but. And then things took a turn for the, definitely went sideways there about the pet photography when I decided to check the Tour of Divide and started dot watching. And I was watching the tour leaders, and I thought, you know, if I'm going to make this thing work, I should probably actually take my camera out and shoot. So I actually went out to check where the leaders were, because they passed pretty close to my house. And the scene was set. It was gorgeous sunset, spectacular scenery, and the race leader, F.A. Bingham, was coming through. I did a little frog hopping with him, you know, kind of shooting a few shots and stuff, and eventually he stopped. And we shared a few moments. Of course, he had been riding for days on end with no sleep, so he was pretty blurry-eyed. But we chatted a little bit, and then I looked in his eyes, and I felt a human connection. I don't know why that's hard to say. Felt that human connection that's difficult to describe. And then there was no time for, obviously, long conversations, right, JP? But he was like, so what are you doing with your photos? And I said, well, I don't know, I'm just starting this thing, I don't know. And he said, well, let me give you a couple names of my brands, and maybe you can send them to him. And I thought, well, there's a start. And so I did, and the rest is history. One of his sponsors was my first sale, and you're welcome. I am paying attention, by the way. I decided that pet photography was going to have to wait for a little bit. So I didn't. The other thing I didn't do is I didn't set out to promote or influence, which I think I may have done a little bit, the sport of gravel. Just naturally, sort of came and happened. Sort of happened. Mainly because of my interest of, once I said, human narrative, along with the curiosity of the gravel environment that I developed as a kid pedaling my 10-speed on farm roads in my backyard. And it's on those roads that I actually found my inner athlete. And for sure, everybody has that. And that's the coolest thing to watch. When you're out there and people are just dragging their heads, right? And they go, oh yeah, maybe I should take a gel. Feed it up a little bit, and then they feel it, right? But everybody has an inner athlete. So if you come across somebody who's struggling a little bit, remind them of that. They're not just out there because they decided to, go down the 200 miles. So it's really important that people recognize that they have that, because that's when they'll actually be able to dig deep. And that's actually, for me, that's when magic happens. So it's good. Endurance cycling is something that's near and dear to my heart. Having competed and challenged myself on the national stage multiple times, I can relate to what's going on out there. And just getting through long periods of time, but mainly dealing with the elements and the conditions. They're just out there, kind of like a sail. I mean, just beating in the wind, right? You know that, right? You've been there a lot. So it's really important to, I think, knowing what maybe some people feel. I think it's really, it helps me as a creator to kind of look for certain things in the environment and try to make them look good, because sometimes it's not really pretty. So, everybody wants to look pretty for their, profile on Facebook. I mean, and that's probably one of the biggest honors, is actually to have somebody use one of my photos as their profile and have it there for years, because everybody's got a phone and they take photos of themselves all the time. Every day, somebody has a new selfie, right? So the fact that they may be using the one that I shot 5 years ago and they're still using that, either they're just really lazy or maybe it was a good shot. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So remember, life can be changing out. It's life changing out there, and relish in that, right? And that is the spirit of gravel. So don't think that that's a bad phrase. Sometimes I hear that people say, "Oh, the spirit of gravel." Give me a friggin' break. And you're like, maybe you should go find it. Hello, it's out there. So being able to capture that human spirit through the transformations over many miles is certainly one of my whys. It's why I'm standing here. It's why I roll in the mud, and I'll be doing that on, hopefully not Saturday, maybe on Friday a little bit. But that's why I do it. I do it because of you guys. So thanks for being subjects and experiments, actually. But sometimes guinea pigs, whatever you want to call yourselves. But I know you're all really good cyclists. But you look really cool in spandex. But really, let's call it a shot, right? I don't know. My intro to Flint Hills, surprising, was actually 2010 when I came here as a racer. I know, I did that one time. And it was actually on the North Course. And the reason I keep coming back, but the reason when I was out there riding around, and it was supposed to be like 70 degrees, 75 or something that year. Turned out to be like 95, 40-mile-an-hour crosswinds, and no aid stations. I'm like, seriously? No sag wagon? Nothing. I was like, come on. Made it to 100, and I was like, there should be a 100-miler in this thing. You know, like, what are they thinking? 200 miles? They're nuts. And at the time, I had a bad back. And it was a good excuse. But I got to 100, and I was like, I think I've had enough. I'm good. And they're like, yeah, but you can make the next cutoff. You can do all that stuff, you know. And I was like, yeah, I can. But had no idea where I was going, really. And now, actually in 2019, when I shot the North Course, because the North Course was 2010, and it was done in the opposite direction. And I was shooting the course, and I was like, oh my God. Thank God I didn't make it this far. Oh my God. That was a nightmare. I was like, whoa. I would have definitely had a bad back. Crazy. So now when I see you guys doing it, and of course you're doing it the other way, which is a lot easier. Right? I mean, come on. I did it the right way. But, so, I mean, I had tons of respect for the people that finished. And fortunately, they changed the distances like a few years later. But it didn't really matter that I finished or not. It's just being out there. Place is amazing. I don't know why this is emotional, but you guys are doing the hard work. But actually, the big thing is actually what I do is actually an endurance event also. Anybody who's shot any photos, if you shot a wedding, you know, right? But it's an endurance event for everybody. Your crew is working their ass off. They're guaranteed it's much harder to do the other things than ride your bike. I know that's hard to believe because riding your bike is really, really hard. But it's definitely, you know, what we do is definitely really hard. So recognize that, recognize your crew, make sure that you're, you know, buying them beers right then and there so they can make it to the next place, right? It's really important. Because really the whole thing is about the community. It's about the gravel community and I dare say, you know, spirit of gravel. It's about that. So if you're not getting that, ask yourself why. Why aren't you getting that? Yeah, it's competitive. You got all that stuff, but you know, there might be some young people in this room. I think there's a few. But you know, as you get older, you learn these things. And so I would suggest, while being young, just take it for face value. Learn, you know, get this stuff. It's about community, and it's about the spirit of gravel. And that means what you read, right? In my opinion. The friendships you develop, Jay talked about it, that you develop with the event promoters, the athletes, and the brands over the years, continue, you know, to fill your cup. You continue to stay in touch with these people. They become your family. And that's really, really important. I want to take a moment to say how encouraged, first of all, that I am to see more women creatives in this gravel space, right? And just in cycle in general, but when I first started in 2015, I was the only woman out there. I was out there for a long time with no other women. And it's not necessarily like, I didn't feel necessarily like, if you can't see it, you can't do it. But it was like, and there is truth to that, but I think it's just having the courage to do it. And it is hard work. You know, David makes it easy on me. but it's hard work, you know? So I can see it, but I think that the sport growing and being more acceptable to a lot of different groups has made that happen. So thank you to the promoters in this room for creating that space, actually, you know? So anyway, in closing, I know it's pretty good, huh? I'm gonna make it through. I'm gonna make it through. I was really only gonna be up here for 3 minutes, but I'm especially honored to be recognized with Serena, Jay, and Nick. I mean, talk about a class. I mean, kidding? That's crazy, right? Who would have thunk? Just crazy. Fortunately, I've had the pleasure of working with all of them over the years and covering their events, gravel stories, and so I could tell you some stories. But as well as getting to know them, these talented people personally, and that's huge. So being honored with them is really, really important. I know those relationships are going to continue even after tonight, I'm pretty sure. In closing, I'd like to piggyback on Shimano's Gravel's latest campaign. And if you haven't seen it, you need to go watch it. And it says it so well. It says, gravel has always been about connection with the land, nature, and each other, with our goals, our passion, ourselves. As a photographer, I challenge myself to create imagery that captures the land, nature, while cyclists strive to meet their goals through their passions. Thank you.